you guys remember this race? This was really the first time that I ever saw Gout Gout from Australia run, and man, did this blow my mind. At 16 years old, Gout proved that his top speed abilities was already elite, and was fast enough to put on this massive gap over his peers in this rather short racing distance that is the 100 meters. Believe it or not, this introduction to one of the most promising young sprinters in the world took place almost exactly 2 years ago now, which seems almost impossible given how young he still is, but it just goes to show how much influence this Australian sprinter has already had in the track and field world. Since the 2024 season, Gout has made more headlines, broken more records, and made more improvements than almost anyone else in the world. He's broken the national record in the 200 meters for Australia twice now. He won the gold in his national champs in the 200 as well, running a scary fast 1984 at just 17, and recently in 2026 for his season opener, he's proven that his 100-meter abilities are only increasing as well, as just 12 days ago now, he ran a wind-legal 10 flat in the 100, and he achieved very impressive splits of 6.57 at 60 and a speedy final 40 of 3.43. This final 40 was fast enough to have been hyper-competitive even in a race such as last year's World Championships, as athletes such as Akani Simbine, Giftley Lola, Kainsola Ajayi, and also Kashane Thompson were not able to close this fast. Gout's name has quickly reached levels that very few track athletes ever attain, and with such a high profile, he is already finding himself in quite rare waters. And I'm not just talking about the Vegemite sponsorship. I mean, that's already quite based. But I'm talking about a genuine comparison to many of the world's best, even though he is still only 18. In 2025, Gout was ranked at number 20 in the world over the half lap, which is incredibly high given he was only 17 when he ran his time. But if we take away the wind, he was actually ranked 11th in the world, as his 1984 was achieved with slightly illegal tailwinds. Gout Gout is genuinely one of those athletes that you just have to watch whenever he hits the track, because when he does compete, there is a decent probability that he is about to break some kind of record. And this brings us to 2026, because in the 200 meters, we officially have a showdown that could bring us something very special. And at the heart of this international 200 is the 18-year-old record breaker, Gout Gout. At the start of 2025, it seemed as though the defending Olympic champion, Letsile Tebogo from Botswana, was experiencing some kind of running slump. All the way up until July, he had not been able to break 20 seconds in the 200, and he also couldn't break 10 in the 100. And even though he had been focusing slightly more on the 400 than previous years, his times were still quite troubling given that he was so fast the previous season. That was until he ran in the 2025 Prefontaine Classic, because with a time of 1976, Tebogo reclaimed his position as the world's fastest at the time. And he even made a bold move of putting the crown back on his head after winning, signifying that yes, he was the man to beat. This one race transformed Tebogo's position as a decent runner in 2025 to quite possibly the favorite come the World Champs, and upon reaching the track at the World Championships in Tokyo, Tebogo managed to run a super impressive time of 19.65, which crazily enough was not even fast enough to get a medal. That men's 200 was out of control, but still, a 1965 ranks among some of the best 200 races in history, and now he again is one of the primary athletes to beat in sprinting. And that brings us to the race of the hour, because in what can only be described as one of the races of the year for 2026, the 18-year-old Gout Gout is finally set to clash against Letsile Tebogo in the 200. And while Tebogo might have the upper hand with his racing experience and personal bests, this race is set to be way closer than you think. If we go back to this 100 season opener from Gout, we can see that he ran 10 seconds flat, a respectable time, but nothing really crazy, right? Well, honestly, it kind of is. If we go back to the 2025 season, we can see that Tebogo only ran under 10 seconds on one occasion, meaning that with his season opener, Gout's improved start and continued top-end endurance is already getting up there with the previous world medalist in the 100. And considering that Gout is primarily a 200 athlete who has already achieved the fastest closing 50 in 200 history under any condition, he will have a real chance to challenge an athlete like Letsile Tebogo. With his new improved start, I really do think that Gout has officially unlocked a door that could be the opening to consistent sub-20 clockings, at least when he reaches the later end of his season. Assuming that he has not lost his classic top speed finish, Gout is quickly making progress to competitive performances on the world stage. If we conclude that Gout is just getting his speed together in 2026, and if we assume that he'll reach a similar closing speed like he did in his peak 2025 numbers, I think by mid-spring, Gout will be around 19.80 shape in the 200, under legal conditions also. Considering that this race will be taking place at Hayward Field in the Nike Prefontaine Classic, I also expect Gout Gout to step up his game with the competition and the atmosphere. Very rarely has Gout gotten the ability to race when he's at peak fitness with such an environment, and this might be what he needs to unlock that magical sub-20 under legal conditions. Now, if Letsile Tebogo is healthy and ready to race on the day, there's a fairly high chance that he simply outraces Gout from his experience. He's already run under 19.85 more than 10 times. He has plenty of speed and strength to pull this time out pretty much at his convenience. But also, don't forget, Tebogo's abilities are as elite as they come, because even after running rounds in the Paris Olympics in both the 100 and in the 200 meters, he then threw down a 19.46 performance, a time that only the fastest runners in history have ever surpassed. The battle of Gout Gout versus Letsile Tebogo is going to be very exciting, and this is really a mouth-watering prospect as to how fast they could run. But there's also another athlete set to race that could challenge both runners in this 200, and that athlete is Bednarek from the US. Now in 2025, Bednarek put together one of the best seasons of his career. He absolutely dominated Grand Slam track in the 100 and in the 200, and come the World Champs, he put together another very impressive time to bring home the silver medal in the 200. And also, he did break 9.8 under legal conditions in the men's 100, a time that places him in the top 15 100 runners in history. If Bednarek is putting together his season like we've seen him do in the past, I think he is going to be competing for the win without question. But the question is, how fast will he run in this year's Prefontaine Classic? Historically, Kenny has no problem breaking 19.8. In fact, if he's in any kind of fitness at all, a sub 19.8 clocking will be a walk in the park. But will his presence in this 200 elevate the performances of Tebogo and Gout Gout, or will Bednarek throw down another 19.5 and take this win without question? Now I would love to hear from all of you. Who do you think is set to win this matchup between Gout Gout, Letsile Tebogo, and also Bednarek? And what time do you think will be required to take the win in this year's pre-classic? Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time.